Hello team, good morning. Just checking we're live on Facebook here. Looks like we are. Hello, hello. Here we are, okay. Welcome, good morning, happy Monday, happy Sunday evening. I'm sure it's probably, is it Mother's Day for everyone in the US? I'm not sure if you have the same time as us, but happy Mother's Day to if you are celebrating Mother's Day today. All right, so come and join us. If you are watching me live, please pop in. Hi, Karen, good to see you. Please give us a like and a love, or just drop me your name because I can't actually see everybody who joins the live. I'd like to be able to welcome you. And if you're watching on replay, please just type in #afterparty. All right, so what we're talking about today is relying on willpower and motivation to achieve our health and our weight loss goals, and why these are the wrong tools. So I want to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself when you answer it. How many times have you actually started working on something like a new way of eating or a new routine, a new commitment to yourself, a new goal, and within maybe weeks, maybe even days, you find yourself back where you started? And when that happens, like, what do you say to yourself? What are you telling yourself in that moment? If you are like most of the people that I talk to, the story goes something like this: oh, I just don't have enough discipline. Other people can do this, why can't I? What's wrong with me? And today I want to offer you a completely different explanation for what's going on here. Not a kind of version of the same story, but an actual different explanation, or one that is actually backed by neuroscience. Because here's what I know after 6 years of working with people on this, and the problem has never been about willpower and motivation. The problem is that both of these were always the wrong tools to begin with. So first of all, we're going to look at what willpower and motivation actually are. So what is willpower? Most of us have this very, vague sense of what willpower actually is. Like it's some sort of moral quality that we have. Like you're either a disciplined person or you're not, that you either have it or you don't. But that's not what willpower is neurologically. So willpower is actually a function of the prefrontal cortex. This is our human brain, the part of our brain that handles the conscious decision-making, reasoning, self-control. Hey Charlene, good to see you. I saw someone else join before. And here's the thing about willpower. Willpower is actually a finite resource, and you've probably heard many people say this, but I actually want to explain what this means. So willpower is something that depletes with use, just like a muscle will get tired the more you use it. And there's a famous study by the social psychologist Roy Baumeister called the Radish and Cookie experiment. It's where a group of people were brought into a room that smelled amazing. Like I can smell it already. I can sort of see what's going on in my mind. There were fresh baked cookies, and some were told that they could eat the cookies, and others were told they had to eat radishes and resist the cookies. Now, both of these groups were then given an impossible puzzle to solve, and the cookie eaters kept trying for about 20 minutes on average to solve this impossible puzzle. Whereas the radish eaters, the ones who'd been using willpower to resist the cookies, gave up after about 8 minutes, because resisting the cookies had actually depleted their self-control. And that depletion had then carried over to the next task, which was trying to solve that puzzle. So ego depletion is a state of reduced self-control resulting from prior exercise of self-control. That's what Roy Baumeister quoted. So what does this mean for you? Every act of resistance, every time you white-knuckle your way through a craving or force yourself to make a better choice through sheer effort, it draws down on this limited account of willpower. So this is why, for many people, by 8 p.m., after, say, a full day of work, a full day of important decision-making, stress, and food choices, that willpower account is often empty. And that's when the cookie tin wins. That's when the snack attack happens. That's when the popcorn comes out. Not because you are weak and you don't have discipline. It's because you are human and your willpower reserves are depleted. So the key point here is that willpower actually runs out. The goal here is to build a life that doesn't require to use it constantly. So let's look at motivation now. Now, what is motivation? We talk about willpower and motivation as if they are almost the same, as though, they're something that's interchangeable, but they're not. And understanding the difference is really important. So motivation, again, is not a character trait either. It's not something you either have or something you don't have. Motivation is dopamine. It's a neurochemical signal that your brain releases to drive you towards doing something or towards something that it perceives as rewarding. So when you set yourself a new goal, you decide that you are going to eat better, you're going to move more, you're going to achieve this weight loss result, your brain might be looking at the outcome and getting excited about that outcome. You're going to feel better, you're going to feel healthier, you're going to feel better in your clothes, you're going to like what you see in the mirror. It all sounds and feels very pleasurable, right? Your brain is imagining the result. And in that moment, it releases dopamine to push you towards working on that goal. And that feeling of being fired up in the early days, feeling ready to go, feeling like finally ready to do it, I'm going to commit, that is dopamine. That is motivation, and it's real. Motivation is dopamine. So it is your brain driving you towards perceived reward. It's real, but it's also unreliable. So here is why motivation disappears. And it's because life and stress and our nervous system happen. Stress comes in. It might be a hard day at work. It might be a difficult conversation. It might be an unexpected problem that needs solving, somebody else needing your attention urgently. And when all of that happens, your brain doesn't stop producing dopamine. It just redirects it. Instead of producing dopamine to drive you towards your long-term goal, your brain starts producing it to drive you towards solving the immediate problem, towards immediate relief, towards immediate comfort, towards whatever has historically made you feel better right now in this type of situation. Your brain just thinks it's helping you. It's genuinely on your side and trying to keep you safe. It's just reprioritizing the urgent problem over the long-term goal that you have. And in that moment, the motivation towards your goal doesn't just weaken, it actually disappears altogether because dopamine has gone somewhere else. And that's why anybody who is dealing with things like chronic stress or anxiety or depression or low moods find behavior change so much harder. It's not because you're weaker in any sort of a way that you can't. It's because of how your brain is currently functioning. It is neurochemistry. The dopamine that would normally be available to drive you towards your goals is now constantly being hijacked by the brain's stress response system. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because we have this tussle, the brain always has this tussle between future pleasure and present pleasure and future reward. On one side of, well, not one side, but one part of your brain being your prefrontal cortex, this is the conscious, reasoning, future-oriented part of your brain. This is the part of your brain that thinks about your long-term pleasure, your long-term goals, plans for the future, safety and comfort, and pleasure in the long term. And it understands that the choices that you make today build the results that you get in the future. And on the other hand, you've got the lower parts of your brain, And in this lower part of your brain is the limbic system, or the habit brain. This is the part of the brain that is wired for immediate pleasure and immediate relief. This part of your brain doesn't think about next month. It has no access to the future. It does not think at all about the months ahead. It thinks about right now, right here, right now. So the prefrontal cortex is the one that decides that you are going to lose the weight, that you're going to go plant-based, that you're going to get healthy, right? It sets that goal and it knows why it matters, why it's so important that you do this. Whereas the lower brain is the one that at the end of a hard day or a long week is suddenly very interested in going out for dinner and drinks with friends when someone texts at 5 p.m. on a Friday. And here's the thing, in that Friday moment, your brain is giving you dopamine. It is motivated, just not towards your goal. It's motivated towards the thing that feels most pleasurable and immediately rewarding right now, especially after a long week, a long stressful week, and you just want to relax and have some fun. So your brain thinks it's helping you in that moment. It's just helping you in the wrong direction. So this tussle between present pleasure and future reward is at the heart of almost every behavior change struggle. It's not a character flaw. It is the human brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. And I want to offer you a useful analogy. Think about retirement savings for a moment. So your prefrontal cortex logically fully understands the logic of saving for retirement. You put money away now and you have that security later in life when you're not earning money. It makes complete sense, right? But your lower brain is the one that needs to spend the money right now. Whether it's on the holiday because you're exhausted, or the dinner and drinks because you just want to relax and have fun with friends, or a new car because the current one's falling apart, or on paying the bills because you don't want to be in debt. It wants you to spend the money on the things that feel good today. The future feels abstract and distant and off there somewhere. Right now is the important thing. It feels real and important to deal with right now. So, in the case of superannuation, retirement savings, what do we do? How do we cope with that decision? Okay, we stop relying on feeling like it. We stop relying on willpower and motivation to make that decision every month, don't we? We automate it. At least here in Australia, that's what we do. The money goes directly from our employer into our savings, into our retirement fund. It doesn't even come into our own personal account, right? It just goes completely into that superannuation account. I'm not sure if that's exactly the same anywhere else in the world, but we don't see that money at all. So we don't even budget for it. It's like it's not there, and it's doing its thing over in another account. That decision is made once in advance when we have the clarity and the intention, and then it happens automatically regardless of how we feel on any given day. And that's the model that we want to apply to our healthy habits as well. We want to make that decision once, and then we want to automate it. We want to remove that daily tussle entirely, which brings me to what actually does work. So let's look at the neuroscience of habits and meet your basal ganglia. Your brain has a second system, one that doesn't deplete, one that doesn't get tired, one that doesn't need motivation or willpower in order to function, and that is your basal ganglia. That's the part of your brain that runs your habits. So think of it this way. Your prefrontal cortex is like a new employee. That's the new employee who's enthusiastic, who's conscious, who's deliberate, but they have to think through every little decision because they don't yet know how to do things automatically. They still have to refer to their notes. They're a little bit slower. It takes a lot more energy to do everything during the day. The basal ganglia is like the employee who's been there for 20 years and has done the job so many times they could do it in their sleep. They probably do. If they're anything like how I used to be in retail, I was like doing my job in my sleep. Crazy. But that person is efficient. They are fast. They are automatic. They don't need to think about which buttons to push in the computer system that they're using. And they require almost no energy at all to do their job. So when something becomes a true habit, a real grooved habit, which is neural connections in your brain, it moves from the effortful prefrontal cortex to the efficient basal ganglia. Once it's there, it runs on autopilot. You do not have to think about it. You do not have to motivate yourself. You do not have to summon willpower. You just do it. Another thing we can think about is brushing our teeth or putting on our seatbelt. When we were kids, our parents had to probably say to us time and time again, have you done your teeth? Have you brushed your hair? Have you tidied your room? Put your seatbelt on. And now we've done those things so many times that we don't even think about it. We just get in the car and the hand's going up, it's putting in the seatbelt, and we're doing it. We at the end of the day, we walk into the bathroom, we just brush our teeth. It's just part of the routine. We do it. We don't need to feel motivated. We don't need willpower to do it. We just do it as part of the routine. So key point I'm making here is that habits don't live where willpower lives, willpower or motivation. And that's why willpower can't create them or sustain them. So let's look at the habit loop, the cue, craving, routine, reward. So James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, has been studying habits for decades. If you haven't read Atomic Habits, I highly suggest you do. It's been a #1 bestseller for years, and I think it's the #1 book on habits in the market. And he's identified a 4-part habit loop that runs every time you have a habit. So first of all, you've got the cue, and then you've got the craving, you've got the routine or the response, and then the reward. So the cue itself is the trigger. It might be a time of day, an emotional state, a location, a person, or a preceding behavior or event in your life. And when this cue happens, it then signals to your brain to produce dopamine so that you are driven to run a particular routine or response and then get a reward from that routine or response. So the routine or the response is the behavior, the action that you take. And the reward is the reward is what the routine delivers. And it's what makes the habit loop stick. If the outcome itself is pleasurable or satisfying or meets a need, it tells your brain, oh, that was good. We must remember to do that again. And your brain closes that new habit loop. So habits are not a character flaw, they're the brain's way of saving effort. And here is the critical insight. So the brain doesn't distinguish between a good habit or a healthy habit and a bad habit or an unhealthy habit. It just runs the loop that it has been running the most time. So when you try and stop an unwanted habit using willpower, you are actually depleting that prefrontal cortex to override your efficient automated basal ganglia. And the basal ganglia, right, the habit brain will almost always win. Not because you're weak, but because that's just how your brain works. You can't willpower your way out of a habit. You have to replace the routine while keeping the cue. The craving will remain there, and you keep the reward as well. So this is the golden rule of habit change. You can't just stop a particular habit. You have to replace the need it's meeting. You have to replace the action. The cue stays. Whether that's the environment, whether that's the time of day, whether that's the emotional state. The craving will stay because you don't have control over that. That's your brain giving you dopamine. And we still want the reward. We still need a reward at the end. But the routine or the response, which is the behavior in the middle, that's what we need to change. So for that classic, end of day wine or snacking habit, that cue might be arriving home or arriving home depleted, being in a stressed state. The reward that you're seeking is actually nervous system regulation. It's not the wine, it's not the cookie. It's a feeling of relaxation, a feeling of being able to let go, exhale, feeling safe and calm in your nervous system, in your body. And the current routine that delivers that result is wine or food. But wine or food isn't the only thing that can deliver the reward that your brain is after. You might be able to get the same result from a walk or a bath or a breathwork practice, some meditation or journaling, even just 10 minutes putting your phone down or just sitting down for a moment and allowing your body to fully relax. Any of these things can trigger that same nervous system response if you pair with the same cue consistently enough that the new habit loop gets grooved. So then it takes repetition, not willpower, repetition. And my PAUSE acronym that I use with my clients helps them to recognize that cue and that craving, to allow that craving to be there without actually just reacting to it as they normally would, and then identify the deeper need or reward that the brain or the nervous system is actually seeking. And then they redirect their action towards meeting that need or the reward desire with a different action. And then they celebrate that change of action so that they get that second dopamine release to close the habit loop. We also want to set up our environment to support us instead of using willpower or motivation. So I used to keep a wine rack in my house. It used to be fully stocked. I used to order boxes of wine through a wine company. And, I used to have it there for when the occasion was required. And I told myself I was being sophisticated and restrained. But really, here's what I've learned. We are exquisitely sensitive to our environment. The presence of something makes it a choice. We do not buy the wine to just have it sitting there. We do not buy the snacks to just have them sitting there in our cupboard, do we? We have bought them to consume. But the absence of something removes that option completely. So a wine rack on the counter is not neutral. It is a cue. A packet of snacks or biscuits or chips or whatever on the counter is not neutral. It is a cue. And every time you walk past it, your brain runs the loop. And by the end of the day, especially if it's a hard day, a stressful day, when that prefrontal cortex is going, bugger this, I'm done for the day, I'm just going to rest and relax, your habit brain is the one that is picking up the show here. And your habit loop is going to win. Now, I don't have a wine rack anymore. I mean, I can't fit it into this apartment anymore, but I just don't keep alcohol in the house. I don't keep processed snacks in the house. I just don't. I know that if they're in my house, they will be in my mouth. So I remove that decision entirely, and my brain stops craving it. And I want to talk about decision fatigue for a moment. So there's a body of research called decision fatigue that's one of the most useful things that I ever came across when I learned about it. The quality of our decisions deteriorates the more decisions that we make every day. Every choice, whether it's big or small, draws down on that same finite cognitive resource. And there's a famous study of Israel judges that really illustrates this perfectly. There were prisoners who were appearing before judges early in the morning received parole about 65% of the time, whereas those who actually appeared later in the day received parole about 10% less. Same judges, same type of cases, but completely different outcomes based purely on cognitive depletion. So by the time you are standing in your kitchen at 7 p.m. and trying to decide what to eat, your decision making is actually at its worst. Your prefrontal cortex is exhausted by your day, and your habit brain is going to take charge in that moment. And that brain is always going to reach for what is familiar, what is most easeful, and what is most immediately rewarding. This is where we run the risk of going, I'm too tired, let's just go out to eat. Or, I don't know what to eat, let's just order in. Or this is when you are trying to change your habits and you have snack foods in your house and you go, bugger this, I'm just going to have crackers and dip for dinner tonight. I can't be bothered. Anita, yes, if it's not in my house, it's not in my mouth. Absolutely, right? So the key point here is that you want to make as many food decisions as possible earlier in the day or earlier in the week when your prefrontal cortex is nice and relaxed and is still running the show. And you also want to design your environment for the person that you want to be. So this concept is called life space. And the idea is that your behavior is always a function of the person and your environment. So you change the environment and you change your behavior. So I want you to think about meal prep. It's not about being a wellness robot. It's actually about making a supportive decision once in advance, whether that's on a Sunday or any other day when you actually have energy, you are rested, you have clarity. So that the future version of you, whether it's on a Wednesday evening or Thursday or even a Friday, doesn't have to make that decision from scratch when you are stressed out, when you're tired, when you're exhausted, when you're cranky with the world. Future you is always going to be tired and exhausted and stressed at some point. Future you will have used a day's worth of decisions already. So you want to give your future you a decision that has already been made, whether that's a beautiful dish of dal and chopped veggies, so that you are removing that decision entirely. Stock your kitchen for the person that you want to be, not the one you're trying to be. And I have developed a system of being able to change behavior that works with your brain instead of against it. So if willpower is the wrong tool and as motivation is unreliable, what is the right system? So this is my plant habit builder. So 5 steps that work with your brain, with how your brain actually functions instead of demanding it override itself constantly. So again, this is an acronym, PAIR. This is where, this is habit stacking. So this is where you attach a new behavior, the new habit that you're trying to build, directly after an existing automatic one. You borrow the automaticity of the old habit to carry the new one. So it might be that after my morning coffee, I have my green smoothie and I have a big glass of water. It might be after I sit down for lunch, every meal I sit down to, I make sure that first thing my plate is half vegetables. You're not starting something from scratch, you're just piggybacking on a habit that already runs automatically. The L is layer it gradually. So most people try and change their behavior by changing everything all at once. This is too much for this prefrontal cortex all at once. So this is where the whole start again Monday morning, new life, new me, or new year, new me, new food, new exercise, new sleep. And this is why by the end of the week we're depleted and we've collapsed back to the old pattern and call it failure, but it's not. Stanford researcher BJ Fogg spent years studying habit formation and came to the conclusion that we want to start embarrassingly small so that it feels almost pointless. And this is what he termed tiny habits. So you don't want to overhaul everything all at once. You just want to start with one small thing and then you want to nail it, practice, and then add the next layer. So building on that success. The A is to automate your environment. Again, we just talked about it. You want to make the supportive choice the easy choice. You want to remove decisions that don't support your goals. Set up your environment on a good day that supports you on a bad day. Prep when you have energy. Keep fruit visible. Keep processed snacks out of the house. Have your water bottle in front of you wherever you go. Take it everywhere with you. Get yourself a sling that goes over your shoulders so you can just take it everywhere. Right? Have your environment supporting you. Your environment is running your behavior whether you design it intentionally or not. So you may as well design it intentionally so that you're more likely to get to your goals. The N is notice what's working. So here's how the human brain goes. it's not usually focused on what's gone well, it's focused on what's not going well. All the problems, all the things that we're doing wrong. Most people never actually notice what's going well. This is the first question I ask all my clients every single session: what's gone well for you this week? You would not imagine how many times people jump straight to the problem. But noticing what works, what is going well, does two things neurologically. Can't get my words out today. What it does is it actually closes the habit loop with a reward signal, more dopamine, that says, oh, that was good, let's do that again. And it also builds the identity signal, that it's building that identity of, oh, I am somebody who does this. So at the end of the day, what you want to do is ask yourself, what did I do today that aligned with who I am becoming? What did I do today that went well? And even just name one thing. And noticing it is not soft, it's neurologically significant. T is to tweak and refine. So no system works perfectly out of the box. The goal is not perfection, it's iteration. If something isn't working, you don't just abandon the whole approach. You just ask specifically what isn't working. You find the friction, you find the thing that is, I guess, broken or not working properly, and you adjust that. If you approach your habits in the way a scientist would approach an experiment, you will get to your goals faster. You approach it with curiosity and not with judgment. And you ask yourself, okay, what did that teach me? What did I learn? And as a result of what I've learned, what do I change moving forwards? What is going to help me move one step closer to my goal? So that's PLANT. If anyone would like that written down in their inbox, let me know. I haven't rolled this out to my clients yet. I'm going to very shortly. And I want to talk about identity as a foundation for habit change here as well. So you can follow, you can set your environment up beautifully, and you can follow the plant habit builder perfectly, and it'll work, yes, but maybe for a while. But if the habit is only built on an outcome goal, right, getting to that number on the scale, or losing a certain amount of weight, or fitting into those jeans or that dress, it actually has an expiry date. Because once goals are achieved or abandoned, well, then what? The people who transform their health and their weight permanently don't just change what they do. They change who they are being. So James Clear makes this beautifully clear in Atomic Habits. He says most people start from the outside in. They set a goal and build habits to achieve it. And he argues that you should actually start from the inside out. Right? Decide who you are. And then build the habits that consistently align with that identity. And he says every action that you take is a vote for the type of person that you wish to become. So instead of saying, I'm trying to eat more vegetables, I'm trying to go plant-based, I'm trying to lose weight, which is a goal statement, an outcome statement, something that you're attempting, you would say to yourself, I am whole food plant-based. I eat loads of vegetables. I am someone who lives at goal weight. This is who I am. You claim it now. And every time you claim that identity right now, but even before you have that outcome, you actually act in alignment with that identity, with that future self-identity. And as you act in alignment with the identity, you're actually casting another vote for that identity. You're reinforcing the belief that this is who you are. And over time, that belief in yourself starts to become unshakable because you are also acting on that belief. When your belief is unshakable, The habit does not require willpower or motivation anymore. It is who you are. You can be around the snack foods. You can be in an environment that once would have triggered you and set you backwards, and you don't make the same decisions that you used to. One of my clients, she'd been vegan for years. She knew the food. She wanted to eat healthy. She wanted to be more whole foods, plant-based. She wanted to be at a healthy weight. But every time that she felt stressed, emotional, when her nervous system was shaken, there was another part of her that was taking over. And there was a very, very strong compulsion towards food and wine that felt like it was outside of her control. She tried willpower, she tried accountability, but it didn't work because the pattern wasn't sitting in her conscious mind where willpower lives. It was much deeper. It was in her nervous system and an old story about what she needed in order to feel safe and calm and comforted once again. So we worked on that deeper layer. We worked on the nervous system layer. We worked on the identity layer, the story underneath the behavior. And when we shifted that, well, the eating shifted with it. Not through effort, but through how she saw herself, her identity, who she was being. And she stopped being somebody who turns to food because she doesn't feel good. She wasn't white-knuckling her way through it. She became someone for whom that pattern no longer made sense as a part of how she saw herself. And that is the sort of transformation that lasts. So a question for you to sit with. Who is it that you are becoming? Not who you're trying to be on a good day, who you are deciding to be. Right now, regardless of how yesterday went. Who is that future version of you? Because that decision, that identity declaration, is where habits start, not the other way around. Hey Margaret, good to see you watching. Hey Emma, if you're still watching. Now, something I get asked a lot is, what do I do when I've already fallen off track? Well, here's the answer. The answer is that falling off track is just data. It's not failing. Falling off track is part of the journey. It's normal. It's like driving to the supermarket and knowing that you are going to hit traffic lights at some point along the way. You're not going to get the green light every time. Falling off track is like getting stopped by a traffic jam or roadworks or an accident and having to divert. It doesn't mean you stop going to the supermarket, does it? You keep going. So I want you to think of falling off track as data. And then we can look back at what caused it. Not from a place of judgment, but from a place of curiosity, understanding what led you to falling off track. If you ignore this, you are not going to learn. So you have to learn the lesson. So we look at, what was the cue? What was the cue? What were you actually seeking? What reward were you seeking? What pleasure were you seeking? What relief or comfort were you seeking? And what was the action that you took that led you to falling off track? What was the actual thing that you did that makes you believe that you failed and you've fallen off track? So you start to see the pattern, you start to see the habit. Oh, it was this cue. It was this emotional state. It was this situation. It was this thing that this person said. And my craving was to go find some comfort, some relief, stress, nervous system calming. My action that I did, I went and ate the food. I went and drank the wine, whatever it might be. And the reward that I got was a sense of relief, a sense of comfort, a sense of calm. So we can ask, okay, well, situations, emotions, stress, We can't make those go away because that's life. That's being human. But in the response part, when we shift the action, what routine could serve that need better? You still have a need, you still have a problem you're trying to solve. There's still something that needs resolving in that moment. So what else could you do that helps you meet the need, helps you solve the problem? The loop is the same. We're just swapping the action. And you get back on track the very next meal. You don't wait till Monday. You don't wait till next month. The very next thing that goes in your mouth. You don't have to wait. If you say, oh, I've blown it all, I may as well just keep going, well, then you really have blown it all. Right? If you get straight back on track, that little oops is like this big versus this big if you keep going. So how long does it actually take to build a new habit? Well, the old 21-day myth has been completely debunked. And researchers have found that it takes anywhere from, say, 18 days, which I think is like really low. I don't know if anyone's really created a new habit in 18 days, to 254 days, with an average of around about 66. And the simpler the habit, the faster your brain, the simpler the habit, and the more pleasurable the habit, the faster your brain will adopt it. Which is exactly why layering habits gradually actually matters. So build one, practice, repeat, 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 repeat. Let it groove, then add another one. Okay, so let me bring this together for you before you go. By the way, guys, if you've got any questions, please drop them in the chat. So, willpower is not the answer. Motivation is not the answer. Willpower is a finite resource that depletes with every single decision that you make throughout your day. Expecting it to be the foundation of lasting change is like expecting a phone on 3% battery to run all day. And motivation, it's a dopamine signal that is real and powerful in the moment, but it gets hijacked by things like stress and redirected towards immediate pleasure or comfort or relief, and disappears when you actually need it most. So what actually works is understanding how habits form in the brain. So the cue, the craving, the routine, and the reward loop. And using that to understand how to build a system that runs on autopilot instead of effort. So the plant habit builder can give you the system to pair, layer, automate, notice, and tweak. And underneath it, the foundations make it permanent, which is your identity, deciding who you are and building habits that are expression of that future version of you. And that shift from trying to being is where everything solidifies. And one more thing that can help you change everything is accountability. So this is one we haven't talked about yet, and honestly it might be one of the most underrated pieces of the whole puzzle. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits as well, and that is accountability. Because here's one thing I know about humans: we are extremely good at letting ourselves off the hook in quiet, in private, right? We say, oh, I don't feel like it today. Oh, I'm tired. I'm just going to give myself a rest, right? We justify our sabotage in a way that nobody else needs to know about. We are the ones that know we're doing it. It's when we start again Monday. It's the, oh, I had a hard week, I'll start again tomorrow, or Monday, or after the holidays, or some magical time in the future. When you have somebody who is genuinely holding you accountable, not in a punishing way, but in a supportive way that helps you stretch beyond your comfort zone, this is when everything changes. Because everything in your nervous system, everything in your lower part of your brain will try to pull you back to what feels familiar and comfortable and safe. And that is just biology. Your brain is wired to return to the known because it is safe, because it is comfortable. And without someone in your corner who can actually see that happening and gently call it out, most people will just allow themselves to drift back to old behavior. So an accountability partner, whether that's someone in your life who is not going to let you off the hook, not a friend who says, oh, you want to go for a wine instead of going to the gym? I'll go with you too, right? A real accountability partner who will call you out, or a coach, or somebody who has their eye on your food, on your habits, on your thinking, your beliefs, your emotional states, your identity, and how you're seeing yourself. That person can spot what you can't from the inside, because when you're inside the pattern, you can't see the pattern. The pattern is normal, but the person standing outside can see the pattern. They're the person that you call when you're struggling, when you don't feel like it, when you're hiding from yourself, when the motivation is gone and the habit brain is running the show. Right? They can help you shift out of that state and move you back towards what you said you wanted, what was once extremely important for you, a 10 out of 10 important for you to achieve. That's not a luxury. For most people trying to make lasting change, that is the difference between getting there and staying stuck in the same loop for another year, another year, another year. So if this is landing with you, and you know that you need that support and accountability, I invite you to book a call with me and let's have a chat to see if I can help you achieve success. So I work with mostly women who are plant-based or want to be plant-based, who have been trying to shift their habits, their weight, and get their health right, and are ready to do it properly with a system, with support, with somebody who has been where they are and knows the way through, who has mastered a lot of the challenges that happen on this journey of transformation and can help you through it. So I have some spots available for one-on-one or group coaching at the moment. And the first step is just a discovery call. So no pressure, just an honest look at where you are, where you want to be, and what's getting in the way, and whether working together makes sense. So I've just dropped a link into the chat below, and that is a link to book a call with me. So if you know that this is the next step that you're looking for, make sure you click that link and book a call with me. So thank you for being here, team. Whether you watch the whole thing, I know there's one person left, or whether you're watching on replay, I hope something has landed for you. I'll be back next Monday, my time, Sunday, your time in the US, with another conversation. And so take care of yourself in the meantime. You deserve to feel as good as you're capable of feeling. And that's a lot more than most of us have been led to believe. Okay, it is possible. Ciao for now, team.